Drew Barnhill, Ringmaster, says, when people hear that Jack's property values are down, you must remember that real estate is local, often by neighborhood. If you drill down into Jack's data, the properties losing values are primarily at the beaches and typical Airbnb properties. These properties skyrocketed in value in the STR boom, short-term rental boom, but are now losing value as the short-term rental market has become oversaturated and is very soft now. If you look at the neighborhoods we are involved in, there has been no depreciation. Greg, does that hold water to what you're seeing?
There's a lot there. There's a lot there, and there's so many great points there. So let's talk about a couple of things. The fact that there's no national real estate market, and when you're looking at an individual MSA and you're looking at how much has my city or my MSA appreciated, that is full of individual neighborhoods, just like Ringmaster is talking about right there. And you have some neighborhoods, they have gone way up, and you do have some neighborhoods that go down. And this happens every single year. So again, you have to look, you have to have boots on the ground who understand this. You have to have real-time data that is trustworthy, that is data-based, and you just can't make blanket statements. But because we were having this show and I knew that the question was going to come up about market values in Jacksonville, I wanted to go in and just pull some of that macro data to give you guys a little bit of a sense, because some of it is noteworthy now.
You going in there pulling data, go figure.
Well, I was in Ireland in between my Guinness. I was pulling all the data to make sure.
Pull a Guinness and you pull a data. I got you.
Because it's something that I wanted to make sure I shared with you guys. Okay, when we're talking about how to analyze a market and how to analyze home price appreciation, you don't want to do it month over month, because it can lead to incorrect conclusions. You always want to look year over year. But we can look at some of the data that maybe is trending over 3 or 6 months and kind of get a little bit of a sense as to where things are going. So I started to pull the data over the last 3 to 6 months to see kind of where our home prices are going. And what I saw is that over the last 6 months in Jacksonville, our home prices on average have declined about 1%.
On average.
On average.
Okay.
And this is all of Jacksonville,
Yeah,
the
so everything
entire
he's talking
MSA.
about, the beaches, the STRs, all that stuff, our neighborhoods, everything averaged in one one stew.
What Drew Barnhill is talking about right there still applies. That may or may not be your neighborhood. It may be the beaches. It may not. But overall, you're going to have about 1% declines. Now, this is noteworthy because we haven't seen that in a very long time.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's also not noteworthy.
Tell me more.
Because here's the deal, guys. For 5 years now, I've had the opportunity to sit here and chat with you, and you guys have seen a lot in the real estate market. And one of the things I have always said is that short-term pricing is the least most important part of the equation here. And I'm talking about short-term pricing, meaning like what's happening over the next 3 years, 4 years, right? When we're talking about what's happening over 3 months or 6 months, and that our home values have declined a measly 1% over that time period, it's like, I wanted to make sure I addressed it because, I'm a data nerd and I thought it was noteworthy because I knew you guys could ask the question. But at the same time, we shouldn't be talking about this at all in terms of how the decision is made to be able to buy rental properties, because, this is such a beautiful asset class. The only thing is you have to hold on.
Yeah.
You have to hold on. This asset class is so consistent. It is so rare for home values to go down. I don't know if they're going to continue to be 1% decline this year. They easily could go back up. Interest rates could drop. This could be a non-story. But what I know is that if you just buy and you hold this asset class for a minimum, just bare minimum of 5 years, I am really, really confident that your home values are going to be a lot higher 5 years from now than they are today. And I really don't care what happens in 3 month, 6 month, year increments. It just really doesn't matter. So I did want to share that with all of you, but if I can ask you guys to just not really kind of like take that and run with that and take a very small data point and somehow change the equation of why this is such a great investment, that would be my ask for the community. But yeah, this is the first time that we've seen over a 6 month span that home values have actually gone down a little bit in Jacksonville.
So like essentially what you're saying is this is a blip in a moment in time. Everybody here is a buy and hold rental property investor. Or at least that's what we're here to like talk about, learn, and understand. We're not flippers.
Right.
So however much it's like happening in like under a year doesn't really affect us. It makes me think of your story of having bought everything in 2006. And while the world was melting down, you just kind of like looking at your balance, like at your P&L and thinking, It's not that bad for me. Like I'm not planning on selling this anytime soon. This continues to return for me, and we've done plenty of shows about like the overall return of that portfolio.
Yeah, and that was a time where home values actually declined about 10%
It's
in
a
a
lot more. Yeah.
year over year.
Yeah.
And that was a time where foreclosures were 40% of all homes that sold. And that was a time where there was negative equity in almost every property, the complete reversal of where we are today. So, guys, this is a time just to stick to the fundamentals of this asset class. To note that, I mean, does a 1% drop really mean anything to anybody? Like a potential 1% drop over 6 months, like it really shouldn't even touch the radar, right? I mean, so at the end of the day, understand that this asset class is built on these solid, consistent fundamentals. I mean, look at everything that has been thrown at this asset class.
Yeah.
High interest rates.
Yeah.
Right. We've had very negative perception of people calling for a crash for years after years after years.
Yeah.
Never happened. And this asset class continues to have a very high floor. So let's keep our wits about us. At the end of the day,
if I'm reading between the lines, what you're saying is like, yes, there may be a 1% dip right now of the last 6 months. It's not a crash that's coming. We've just literally been in the eye of the storm for a year and a half of high interest rates, tariff stuff, like all these different things have been happening. And still we are here at like a 1% seasonal drop kind of thing.
And we got to think about what's on the other side of these high interest rates. We talked a lot about in the Q1 market update about how demand, the number of home sales, is lower this year, significantly lower. Well, it's just very easy to see that's correlated with high interest rates. So you've got people who want to buy houses that are hearing and convincing themselves that it's not a good time to buy, and they're sitting on the sidelines. Well, they still need to buy a house.
Pent-up demand.
And they still want to buy a house. So what's on the other side of these high interest rates is lower interest rates, and you're going to open up the floodgates of demand. And you're going to see that home price appreciation is going to follow. So, I'm sure the question will be, is it still a good time to buy? And guess what, guys? Yes, it's still a great time to buy. Your interest rates are eventually going to come down at some point. So if you don't like how high they are right now, you just refinance them. And buying before that demand is released is the big opportunity right now.
Got it. And Renee's chiming in. Pablo and Greg are right. Short-term fluctuations in value are meaningless. At any point in time, the data points will vary based on recent sales data. What really matters is the long-term trend for the market area.